You get used to this, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Jessica, and welcome to the Facebook live stream holiday concert with Tori Amos here in Electric Lady Land Studios in New York. As you all know, Tori just released her first seasonal album, Midwinter Graces. Played some of those tunes for us as long as, or as well as some old. We'll be your question to the right of the video player. Submit your question there, and we'll see it pop on the screen. It's constantly refreshing, so I'll be reading questions from that screen as well as some here. So welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Here we are at Electric,
Electric Ladyland.
Electric Ladyland, and it's a magical place. Just being here in with the energy that's been here.
How are you holding up in cold, windy New York right now?
Well, it's very cold, I must say. I think that's why it's on one hand it's good playing inside, not being outside, because as a piano player your hands get cold
Right.
and it's hard to get them moving.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about Midwinter Graces before we get into the fan questions. So the first question, can you just describe to me the evolution of this album from idea into execution?
In some ways, if I really look back, maybe I've been composing this since I was 2.5 without even knowing it. Going to the church services my father would be the minister of, that's one of my memories that I have, always being at this time of year at services, and there would be a lot of music. Some I wasn't so crazy about, and some that I thought had a lot of potential, and some that I liked. And so I guess I would be storing parts of it that I liked and parts of it that I didn't. And I would research where some of these songs, where the melodies came from and how they were changed over the years, so that when I did get asked to do this by Doug Morris, who's head of Universal, and I've known him, he was the guy that broke Little Earthquakes worldwide. He's 70, and he talked to me about making a unique kind of seasonal record that was different, that had a new approach to some of the old carols and some new songs as well.
What was the most surprising thing that you learned doing the research for these carols?
Well, to realize that a lot of the songs that we think are sacred cows, that you can't touch them, they were actually other songs. And so some of them might have been drinking songs. The first Noel, for example, could have been a sea shanty or a drinking song. And then the Christology was put to the song much later. And no one can trace exactly what the songs were before this. But that really fascinated me because I thought, well, then I'm just a part of a tradition that's also putting another viewpoint on it, a multi-layered, sort of like an archaeological dig.
And your daughter Tosh, as well as your niece Kelsey, both sing on this album. And your nephew, you mentioned the other day, Casey, is the angel in the artwork. Was it really important for you to incorporate your family into this project?
Well, family is the center of our life, and especially at the holiday time. I know there's so many stories that you hear of people where I hear, I get letters and stuff from people that tell me the most crazy stories of holiday of families getting together. And it is true that sometimes you have those gatherings where not everybody's on the same page and you might have different spiritual beliefs, and you find a way to try and put that aside during the holiday time and not have confrontations about politics or things like that. And that's a commitment that we really try and make, that we hold a space for people just to kind of appreciate each other. My mom and dad keep telling everybody, we don't know how much sand is in the hourglass, they'll say to me. They're 81. And we try and all be with them around this time.
And with that, what is your warmest holiday memory?
Well, I would say to you probably the most recent years. I I've really enjoyed having a child, and I think this time of year when you have a child, the kid in you comes out, and whatever your opinions are on the season, the humbug goes away when you have kids. Just to see them so excited. And I have a little girl who's 9, Tash. So she's really taught us all, I think, that it is a special time and it is a magical time.
So we're going to take a couple of fan questions now. Again, to everyone that's watching this, you can submit your question to the feed that's to the right of the player. And like I said, the screen's constantly refreshing. So are you ready?
I think I'm ready.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to start with one of these right now. Okay, Sharon wanted to know, have you ever had stage fright?
Yes, there are times when it hits you. Television's tricky, I find, more than live, because a live concert, you get a whole 2 hours. It's sort of like a date. It's not just walking out cold like you do on TV, and it all happens so fast. You're out there, especially if it's live TV, and you can't fix it. If
Like
you're,
right now?
yeah, this is live, but it's good because for some reason this isn't the same pressure that you get when you're on a national TV show, just because everybody's so stressed on some of those TV shows. This is really relaxed and everybody's chilled out. And everybody keeps saying to me, it's the internet, Tori. Anything goes. And you kind of think, that's very unusual because when I'm doing TV, it's, now don't do this. You can't say one of those bad words that you like to say. And I think, oh, what a reputation I have. And then you know that if you mess up, then the audience is not warmed up to you. Whereas when it's a concert, it's very different because everybody, no different than a date. You're having a cocktail, you're getting to know each other, you're taking off your jacket. I mean, it's kind of sexy. Whereas TV, they're completely cold to you. They have not warmed up to you. So you walk out and you're playing these highly emotional pieces, and it's very difficult to get them where you are like that. That's the trick.
See, we have a question. Piece by Piece really opened my eyes. Your autobiography, of course. Are there any plans on making another book?
I hope not. No, that was torturous. I think I'll leave books to Neil Gaiman. And Ann Powers was fabulous working with her. You might know her.
I do.
So
I do.
she's very wise. But it was a labor of love. She jumped on the bus with us on tour, traveled around, and we wrote a lot of it just living and being together and having that experience. So I think that was important that those conversations were occurring while we were making music and touring.
Speaking of Neil, there was a question that was submitted earlier this week by Charlie, and she wants to know if you have any other plans to work with him again.
Well, we're always talking about doing something, but the latest thing that he put out that was really special was Blueberry Girl, which he wrote when Tash was inside. I don't mean in prison, but inside. And he wrote this poem for her, which then became a storybook. So we collaborate in that way as we are in and out of each other's lives, sort of like spiritual brother and sister, which we've always had that specific relationship. But I don't know. My worry sometimes if you work with certain people that you're so close to, you don't want to fall out with them because you can. You hear
It's
about
true.
that all the time.
It's true. Very good point. Um, Ash wants to know if you will release a video for the ADP tours, American Doll Posse, of course.
Well, that's a very good question. We recorded it and it is still sitting there. I got sidetracked doing the visualettes, the short films, with all the footage that was made around the DVD. So instead of it becoming B-roll, it became these short films for the last record, which was called Abnormally Attracted to Sin. Therefore, the film is there, and it is something that I want to do. I will do it with a team when we think it's the right time. So I haven't forgotten.
I'm going to take another one from the screen here. It's from Justine, and she says that you work so hard and give so much to your fans. Where do you get your energy from, and how do you look after yourself?
The songs give me energy. They they come from all over. I can't. It's not as if there is a certain planet or something that they come from. They have an energy, though, that is not something that I'm used to in my day-to-day life. So when I'm just being a mom, and not just, but being a mom and a wife and a friend, I don't feel that kind of energy. When the songs come in to my life and take over, there's something, it's hard for me to describe it, but it feels like 220 voltage supercharge. And it is an energy that wants to give. And it wants to make relationships with people out there, the songs, the different ones. And so feeling them and knowing that they seem very intent on getting out to the world. And they tell me not to worry about the relationships they're making. They can take care of themselves. And that's been something I've had to learn. So when they do come, and even when I play them, my energy level changes. It really does. I get to walk out of sometimes, I don't want to say the routine, because I'm very blessed. I love my life. I love the people in my life. But when I walk out of what we call our day to day into this world, it's like no drug I've ever taken, no coffee, no anything I've ever had. And it's, some people have called it, medicine people have said it's mother creation energy, deep from within the earth. It's that kind of feeling when you're out in nature and you feel like you could just walk forever. That's what it is.
I've noticed that we've had a lot of questions about your lip gloss. So What lip gloss is it that you use that's your favorite?
Well, there are all kinds that people are looking at me right now saying, you answered this very carefully. Well, this is what I will say. There is a lip gloss coming out that's been kind of designed around what what I have been interested in about lip gloss for 30 years. It's from Smashbox and it's around Pink and Glitter, that song. So that's a magical thing. And yet the one that you saw me fiddle with is Stila Apricot because I choose to use this because there have been makeup artists that are very famous that would put this bright red lipstick on before I would sing when I'm doing
Hmm.
TV or something. And then lo and behold, you look up and it's everywhere and nobody's thinking, well, that beautiful look before you go and do your playing and singing just makes you look like a clown because you can't do that with the microphone and all of that. So that's why I use that specific kind because it doesn't do that.
Okay. Um, Donald Neal submitted a question earlier this week, and he wants to know, with all the hype surrounding 2012, especially with the movie that just came out, what's your take on the supposed Armageddon in 2012?
You know, if I allowed myself to watch all that, and yes, the movie looks like it has great effects and all that kind of stuff, but I must say there's so much terror around it that I think it does whip the masses into a frenzy. And we have to really tell ourselves this is just entertainment because if you really look at what the Maya were saying is that that's just the end of their calendar. So it's an opportunity for us to begin another calendar. It's not the end of time. It's the end of them counting time. And I think that's really important. This has been happening with all kinds of cultures where their time frame ends, but yet another one begins. Think of the Ice Age. Think of the dinosaurs. It's we just need to transcend into another time frame. And maybe in this time frame, we have to change our priorities. And I think our relationship to time could possibly change.
Okay, another one from the screen here. There's a lot of questions going really fast right about now. I'm gonna go ahead and pull one from here then that I have ready. Have you ever met Gina Davis or Susan Sarandon and told them about the influence that Thelma and Louise had on you?
I've never had that opportunity. And maybe that will happen. It's strange the people you run into and why you do what it brings up for you, and then certain people you just never run into, and yet they've been an influence. Yes, you could actively seek certain people out, but I like sometimes to see what the universe
Brings you.
brings you
Hmm.
because, sometimes this might sound crazy, but your fantasy of what a conversation will be with somebody that's been a part of something that influenced you, your fantasy of it could be so much greater than what it would be that it's almost better not to even enter into that because that movie gave me so much. It opened a doorway for me that I feel like they did their job.
Georgia from online here on Facebook wants to know what books you're reading right now.
Well, I had a very harrowing experience going to Auschwitz just a few weeks ago when we were finishing the European tour, and I'd never been. And to anybody out there that hasn't been to Europe and gone to see some of the camps that were where many people were killed, I realize this is a holiday time, and this isn't sometimes a conversation that you want to have if you're in celebration mode, because it is a very difficult read. I got a lot of books from Auschwitz and accounts of people that survived. Also, I was fascinated then to see it from the other side, meaning the allies that were fighting. So my husband and daughter wanted to take Tasha's granny to the Churchill war rooms. So before we started this part of our touring, just a few weeks ago, we went to the Churchill war rooms. That's where Churchill and his team fought from underground with all the bombing. I didn't realize how much London and England, Europe, of course, I did know that, was bombed. I had no idea the level of destruction, and you realize sometimes how close, when we talk about 2012, how close our world came to becoming a completely different world. You think if Hitler hadn't invaded Russia, we might not be sitting here talking like this right now. They were not far away from taking over all of Europe when you really look at the information. And it's just a few things that lined up, the Brits and their tenacity, and we all need to thank them, and the fact that our forefathers and mothers, the Americans, did enter the war, but would we have if we hadn't been bombed? And I was just in Hawaii a few weeks ago, so I've been sort of following this trail of World War II for the past few weeks, and it did take over my life for a while.
One fan wants to know what you want for Christmas.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if we're talking material things, I'm trying to think. Lately, I've been trying to wish for things that are, you know, less stress for everybody. The world has been teetering for everyone for the past 18 months, and it seems as if sometimes it's going so fast you can't keep up with the changes. So I wish there was something I could buy in a little perfume bottle that could make me deal with how fast things are happening. A calming potion would be good.
We have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to ask a couple more questions here. Someone wants to have your babies, apparently.
Oh, good. Is it a guy? He could be the
I can't
first
tell.
guy. We could manage him.
What was it like recording Holly, Evan, and Rose with Tosh?
Well, she got very emotional because she wanted to do a silly version of Star of Wonder. There's a We Three Kings of Orient are, tried to smoke a rubber cigar. It was loaded, it exploded, bang. We two kings of Orient are, in her British accent, of course, blah, blah, blah. And I kind of thought, okay, that's probably copyright control issue, Tash. Some boy in prep school somewhere has written this on a drug rant. And so let's try and get you singing something else. So when she went into the studio and she heard her voice back through the headphones and the microphone, it took her a minute. She said, it doesn't sound like that in the shower. And we were telling her, Mark and I, you have a gorgeous voice. And I think because Kelsey had sung, her cousin, she really didn't want to let Kelsey down because they had agreed they would both do their part. And Kelsey had already done hers.
Right.
She sang in Chicago. And so we got through it. And it's a very different thing, though, singing through a microphone for the first time.
Does she want to stick with it, though?
She does want to stick with it. She wants to act as well. She's a funny person. Tash could end up doing stand-up She imitates everyone. If you meet her, as soon as you walk out of the room, she's going to do Jess. She will.
Which apparently is Chelsea. Everyone thinks that I'm Chelsea here.
This is Jess.
Yeah. Let's see. Do you have any other muses other than the ones you've referenced prior that's from Chuck?
I have a lot of muses, men as well. Visual artists I go to a lot because when I'm looking at Klimt or Kandinsky or the latest is Aboriginal art, I just discovered that when I was in Australia, but another level of it, reading about it, understanding how they paint their totems, if it's the yam totem or stories. And the visual artists affect me in ways that maybe nothing else does because by looking, I hear. And so I travel around the world and see all different kinds of exhibitions, and that really triggers a lot of music for me.
That's all for our fan questions. I want to give big thanks to everyone that's watching.
You're saying we can have one
Oh,
more?
we can have one more. Great. Let's see. What's your New Year's resolution?
Oh dear. Um, well, one side of me wants me to stop worrying about all the things that can happen. I think when you become a mom, and not just worrying about your child, but you worry. When I was your age, I didn't used to worry so much. I didn't. I used to think, it'll work out. But once you get to be older and a mom, and I love being in my 40s, but there's something that you're mortal, and that mortality, it's very tangible. And so one of my resolutions, though, is to stop worrying so much that I almost think you can make things happen. By worrying about it so much, all of a sudden, you're creating things, a situation, so that it comes about. So I'm trying to get myself to be in more of a neutral place with things that I'm a bit cagey about, and to trust my instincts more. I think we all need to do that. There's that gut feeling. If you have it, it's usually right.
Thank you so much. And thank
Thanks.
you to everyone who watched and submitted questions. Also, thank you to Facebook and Livestream, of course, for this wonderful experience. And Tori for the great performance and taking time out to answer the fan questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Jess, and thank you, everybody. I know that you took time out of your day, and Facebook, you're super.
So from all of us here at Electric Ladyland, happy holidays.